Canada is losing control, a nation in decline amid crippling policy failures and public frustration. Canada now stands at a critical crossroads, with Prime Minister Mark Carney's grand vision of transforming the country into a global economic and trade powerhouse increasingly questioned by many. What was once seen as hopeful ambition has become a source of growing skepticism. Instead of delivering tangible improvements to Canadians' lives, the government's agenda is being criticized for exacerbating affordability issues, limiting individual freedoms, and threatening the social cohesion that binds the nation. As the country grapples with mounting economic pressures and controversial environmental policies, the public's trust in leadership is wavering, leaving many to wonder where Canada is headed. Central to Carney's agenda is the contentious federal ban on the sale of new gas-powered vehicles by 2035. While touted as a critical step towards combating climate change, this policy faces intense backlash for its lack of practicality. Canadians living in harsh climates, particularly in rural and northern areas, understand firsthand the challenges of relying on electric vehicles, EVs, in extreme cold. Current charging infrastructure is woefully insufficient, and there is no clear, workable plan to support transportation needs outside major urban centers. Environmental Minister Julie Debrusin has maintained the government's commitment to this deadline, despite growing evidence and public concern highlighting how unprepared the country is for such a drastic transition. The divide within Canada is becoming increasingly pronounced. Premier Danielle Smith of Alberta has openly criticized Ottawa's approach, stressing that the federal government's policies overlook the realities faced by energy-producing provinces and those relying on traditional vehicles for work and daily life. Smith advocates for a national strategy that respects regional differences and addresses economic concerns rather than imposing a one-size-fits-all policy. Conservative MP Dane Lloyd echoes these worries, warning that the ban will cause job losses and increase living costs. Yet, his party's credibility is also questioned, especially after their support for Bill C-5, which expanded federal powers in ways some see as undermining provincial autonomy. Adding to the controversy are serious concerns about conflicts of interest. Mark Carney's ties to Brookfield, a major player in the EV market, have fueled accusations that economic gain rather than environmental stewardship may be driving government decisions. The price tag for this green transformation is staggering. Estimates suggest that transitioning Canada's vehicle fleet could cost $300 billion, translating to over $11,000 per vehicle currently on the road. Meanwhile, the infrastructure needed to support EVs falls far short of what is required. Canada currently has about 30,000 charging stations, but would need nearly 700,000 by 2040 to meet demand. This stark gap highlights the massive challenge ahead and raises questions about government readiness and planning. For many Canadians, the hardest hit by these policies are those in vulnerable communities. Rural residents, low-income families, and Indigenous peoples often lack reliable infrastructure and face higher costs of living. Forcing a shift to electric vehicles without providing practical alternatives or financial support threatens to worsen these inequalities. What the government portrays as environmental responsibility is increasingly seen as a coercive, top-down mandate that ignores the economic realities and lived experiences of millions of Canadians. Critics argue that these policies risk deepening social divides and alienating key segments of the population. Polling data underscores the widespread skepticism towards the government's approach. Ipsos research reveals that two-thirds of Canadians believe the 2035 target is unrealistic, while Nanos shows only around 30% support a full ban on gas-powered vehicles. Despite this clear public resistance, the government presses on without adapting its policies to reflect Canadians' concerns or economic constraints. Even major automakers like Toyota caution that consumers will ultimately make purchasing decisions based on personal needs, highlighting the limitations of government mandates and the importance of choice in the market. Affordability issues continue to loom large. Electric vehicles often come with prohibitively high price tags. Many models start at $80,000 or more, and battery replacements can cost up to $30,000. At a time when Canadians are already grappling with rising inflation and cost of living pressures, such expenses place EVs out of reach for most households. Moreover, Canada's energy grid is not yet capable of supporting the surge in electricity demand that widespread EV adoption would bring. Without substantial upgrades, Canadians could face energy shortages, longer wait times at charging stations, and greater strain on the power system. The government's green vision must contend with these substantial economic and infrastructural barriers if it hopes to succeed. Meanwhile, allegations of cronyism and mismanagement further erode public confidence. Reports of contracts and subsidies disproportionately benefiting well-connected firms such as GC Strategies and Dalian Enterprises paint a troubling picture of how taxpayer money is being spent. This pattern of lavish government spending with little transparency has amplified distrust and skepticism towards the Liberal administration's environmental and economic strategies. Canadians are questioning whether these initiatives are genuinely about public good or if they serve the interests of insiders. Prime Minister Mark Carney's leadership is under intense pressure as dissatisfaction grows. Many citizens feel sidelined by a government that appears more interested in imposing mandates than collaborating with the people it serves. Instead of treating Canadians as partners in shaping policy, the current approach seems to view them as obstacles to be managed. This dynamic breeds frustration, resentment, and a mounting demand for greater accountability and respect from those in power. In the face of this growing discontent, the political environment calls for decisive action. Canadians are urging their elected officials, across party lines, to move beyond symbolic gestures and empty promises. What is needed are practical policies that balance environmental goals with the protection of individual freedoms and economic realities. Market-driven solutions that encourage innovation, choice, and affordability must take center stage if Canada is to regain public trust and effectively address its environmental challenges. With the snap federal election looming on April 28, 2025, the stakes could not be higher. Voters across the country are seeking leadership that delivers transparency, practical solutions, and a genuine respect for Canada's regional diversity and varied economic realities. This election will be pivotal, setting the course for Canada's future. It offers a clear choice: continue down a path marked by growing division and decline, or embark on a renewed effort to restore unity, accountability, and hope. In these uncertain times, Canadians face a profound choice: to accept the status quo, widely viewed as flawed and out of touch, or to demand a new direction rooted in fairness, freedom, and sustainable prosperity. The future of the nation hangs in the balance, and the decisions made in the coming months will determine whether Canada can reclaim control of its destiny and rebuild the trust essential for a thriving society. The coming months will be critical in shaping not only policy, but the very spirit and resilience of the nation itself.